Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're well. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm gonna probably stay behind the desk here with my tissue. Yeah, today we're gonna be talking about other search engines, and I hope it's gonna be valuable to you. I will ask you some questions, and I would like you to engage with me, please. And I hope it's gonna be a great presentation. So, as Gemma mentioned, I'm the Research and Demand Generation Manager at the Business Solutions team at Webcertain. Here are two key tags for Twitter. If anyone is a Twitter fan here, please do share your experience with the conference and the speakers. And yeah, today we're going to be talking not only about Google, but other search engines. For me, Google is seen as a Mount Everest, therefore there is a picture of a mountain, because it's a dominant. Everest is a dominant in the Himalayas, but there are other search engines out there. And I would like you to now engage with me and maybe tell me if you are aware of any other world search engines. Just hands up and shout out. Baidu, yes. Ooh. What was that? Oh, search engine, okay. Any side here? It's quite quiet. Yandex, great. Bing, yeah. Go Duck, exactly. Baidu, we said Seznam, yeah. So Seznam is the Czech search engine. Okay, yeah, great. So you catch a few that we're gonna be talking about today. So we're gonna mention Baidu, Yandex, and Naver. So are you all aware of these three, or is that something new for you? Okay. And we're going to be talking about how to achieve the effective presence out there on them. And we're going to cover a few topics, which is going to be the, first of all, little search engine overview. Then we talk about some on-page optimization and off-page optimization tips for these search engines. And we mention also some key algorithms and webmaster tools that you need to have in mind when actually working with these search engines. So to start off with, we look into the overview and the worldwide share of these search engines. When talking about shares, you are probably all aware that the data are coming from different sources, might vary considerably. So if we ask Yandex or if we ask Google, they might say completely different stats. But this stats coming actually from Global Stats, and that's a website that calculates the insights from about 2 million members that install the counter on their website. So we see that Google has got about 90% worldwide share, with Baidu currently in April 2008 with 2% share, Yandex almost 1% share, and Naver didn't make it. But you know, we can't really think that these numbers are low for Baidu, Yandex, or even Naver not being really mentioned with their percentage, because they still target millions of people in the country that they have the dominancy. And we're gonna see that soon. So, primary, Baidu is dominant. Which country you think is that nice icon? I would like to hear it a little bit louder here. China, yes. Yandex? Russia, yeah. So the picture is Russia, but they also have a quite considerable presence in different countries like Belarus, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and Turkey. So these countries are also important for Yandex. And Naver, South Korea. And also Japan, which I didn't mention. But we're going to be focusing really on these 3 countries in the presentation. We have about 20 minutes, therefore it's going to be more a top-level overview. You can imagine we could talk a whole day about the search engines. So moving into Baidu. Baidu has been established in 2000, and it's China's Google. And why is that? Why do you think Baidu's got the presence, such a strong presence in China? Looking at the picture. Google's not allowed. Yeah, so there is a big, obvious censorship and a great firewall, which is not allowing really Google to have such a strong presence in this country. For example, Baidu's got its own Wikipedia. They don't allow proper Wikipedia, and they also change or actually remove certain data from the Wikipedia. So this is the main kind of search screenshot, similar to Google in the view. And when obviously targeting China, Baidu will be your key thing to have a presence on, because it's very, very important for digital marketers to handle it right. And we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. Regarding Yandex, it's been established in 1997, and it's got very similar services and products to Google. It's got its own mail, it's got its own maps, it's got its own translator, but obviously they differ. And Yandex has about 60% dominance in the country, and you can't miss out Yandex when targeting Russia. So this is the overview. You can see it's more like a portal. You can see the weather forecast and other Russian interesting things. What I'll mention is also what is very different to Google is that Yandex actually has a local search results. So you can geo-target Russian regions and cities, and the SERPs will vary between those cities and regions. So I think that's quite a useful thing for such an enormous country with 11 time zones, as I learned. And Naver. Naver been established about 1999 from the ex-Samsung engineers, and it's really focused on user-generated content. It's really focused on social media and users and what content they generate. And it's about estimated that hold about 70% in South Korea. But again, these numbers vary, and some resources actually say that Google is dominant. So just have in mind that this can vary, and both search engines in this country are important. So we just look at how really different Naver is and how many different results it generates. I hope that the video will work. So we'll see the paid search on the top. Then we have some space for organic listing. Then we have Naver Cafe, Naver Encyclopedia, maps, images, blogs, Naver Knowledge, and apps. So if you look at it, don't you think this is one of the longest search result page you've seen in your life? I think so. So I actually read that whatever is similar to Google is probably just the white background. Everything else is very different. So question here is, would you focus on SEO when you see that there is such a limited space for the organic listings when targeting Naver? Oh, people think. Well, actually, what you have to look into is definitely paid as well as the user-generated content. So targeting Naver blog and Naver Cafe, which is a community place. That's the key for Naver. Not much about SEO, but we'll still mention several key facts to have in mind when targeting this search engine. In South Korea, there is, apart from Google, also Daum, which is more focused on SEO. So if you were about to do SEO, you might focus on Daum instead. So moving into the technical setup for all these three search engines. So we'll talk firstly about hosting. So we just mentioned that Baidu obviously has the difficulty with the Great Firewall of China, and sites hosted outside China has a bit of difficulty with ranking on Baidu. They consider slower loading speed, so it's definitely advised to host your site inside of China. If you decide to do so, you will need an internet content provider license from the government. So before your site is actually launched, it needs to receive this license from the government. It can be private or individual, or it can be business focused. Yandex, they actually say that they don't really mind wherever the site is hosted, as long as it's reliable and quality provider that will have the good access and speed. So that would be your key thing to have in mind when looking for a host for Yandex. Naver, similar to Baidu, again, sites outside of the South Korea will experience probably performance drop.